Welcome back. I would like to do a little game with everybody, if you would please. I'd like to do a nice little drum roll here. If everybody would do a drum roll with me on your tables, in your homes, at your couch, where you're sitting. Let's do a drum roll, please. We have got an amazing next speaker, and I want to make sure that the blood is flowing because I don't want you guys to miss out on what we're about to do next. Our next speaker is a doctor who has opened multiple practices. He's a best-selling author. He has a book named The Pillars of Dental Success. And he's the founder of the, I want to make sure I get the wording right, the Dental Success Institute. He coaches dentists, and he has the Horizon Schools of Dental Assisting. He is beyond just a dentist or a coach or a speaker. This is a practicing clinician who has seen the highs and lows of practice ownership. So it is a big, exciting moment for us to be able to have speak with you today, Dr. Mark Costas.
Well, thank you, Jamie, Elijah, Bill. How are you guys doing? All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys all for being here. This is my tribe. This is why I do what I do. I've been on stage with every speaker so far today in the past, with the exception of Gary Cady. Last time we were all together was in Jamaica, Montego Bay, Jamaica. So it is. It seems like it's a very, very exotic and exciting lifestyle, but getting on a plane and traveling away from those people is difficult to do. And the reason I do that is because I love to do what I do. I love to spread the gospel of don't make the mistakes that I've made, and I've made a lot. So I'm probably the least likely person in the world to be speaking on stage to anybody. But you will find out soon enough that the reason that I am more qualified than most is because I've made many more mistakes than most, and I've made many more bad, ill-advised decisions than most. So let's talk about some stuff. I have a lot of slides that are very detailed and small print. So if you guys are interested in getting slides, and I can send you a copy of my book as well, just text me the word free book, no spaces, to 42828. I'll get you all these slides and a free copy of my book as well. All right. How many people out there remember the exact day when they decided that they were going to go into dentistry? The exact day. How many people wouldn't raise their hand for anything because they're in a food coma? All right. For me, it was March 8th, 1988. I'm aging myself here, but I was a junior in high school. I was a 16-year-old junior in high school at Agora Hills High School. My parents had just relocated our family from Tucson, Arizona to Agora, California, which, anybody know where Agora is? If you're at LAX, driving down the 101, take a right at Malibu, 20 minutes and you're at Agora. So a bit of a culture shock for me, from like cowboys to, you know, the heart of Southern California on the beach. So I'm at a brand new school, young guy, 145 pounds soaking wet. I ended up just by chance going to a high school that was very, very good, had a very, very good baseball program. And I was a baseball player. I made the team. I was probably one of the smallest kids on the team. There was 2 major league prospects on my baseball team. So there were a lot of people that would come watch us play. Professional scouts, college scouts, the entire student body, reporters, photographers, always at our games. So my very first varsity baseball game, I am the starting left fielder, and nervous as heck, palms sweaty, standing in left field. This big kid gets up to the plate, and my pitcher just tosses him a softball about shoulder level, and he jacks it towards me. So I do what a good trained outfielder does, and I turn both my shoulders towards the fence, and I sprint towards the fence, waiting for my right foot to hit the warning track. Everybody know what a warning track is? Yes. You guys know what a warning track is? Okay, thank you. And then you can play off the warning track. Your foot hits the warning track, you put your hand out onto the padded fence, and you can play a home run off the wall. Well, my previous field that I just left had a warning track and a padded fence, but the new field didn't. So I was sprinting, waiting for my right foot to hit that warning track, but there was no warning track, so this is what happened. Boom. That's an actual picture. Number 17. All of my kids, by the way, my 3 boys, all wear number 17 because this was my number. So they all wear number 17. And if you look really closely here, you can see, you can see the A on my hat for Agora was pointed back towards the photographer. I led with my face. It was a very, very violent collision. 8 and 9 completely avulsed. 7 and 10 broken off at the gum line. 6 and 11, class 2 mobility, upper jaw fracture, very, very violent collision. This was on the front page of the LA Times, by the way, the next day. That is their coach and my shortstop and my center fielder looking for my teeth, which they never did find. I might have swallowed them. And that's my coach walking me off the field. So what that was a marker in time, but the beginning of my journey into the profession of dentistry. Because what happened after that was 14 months in and out of dental offices, dental specialty offices, plastic surgeon, ortho, endo, perio, general dentistry. When I got to the other side of that, I had a beautiful brand new smile, but also a really, really deep and rich appreciation for the profession of dentistry. These people became like heroes to me. And that is the day that changed my life, and that is the experience that led me to where I am today, into dentistry. The problem was, I decided at 16 that I wanted to be a dentist, but I was a child that had pretty significant learning disabilities. I had ADD, I had problems as a student. I don't think I was stupid, but I didn't process information the same way that most people do. At some points, the teachers would have to read the tests to me in order for me to be able to comprehend them, and then I would do fine if I was taking an oral exam. So when I got out of undergrad, put myself through school, struggled all through undergrad, I had a decent dental school application. Not a great one, but a decent one. And just to have a decent dental school application was a feat for me. So I applied the first year, got rejected to all of the schools, applied the second year, got rejected to all the schools. All told, it took me 3 years and 21 attempts to get a single acceptance to dental school. 1 acceptance. And what I was doing in the meantime was I got enrolled in an executive MBA program. I decided I wanted to learn more about business. And if I wasn't going to get into dental school, if this plan wasn't going to work out, I wanted to have a background in something that was going to be useful. Started my executive MBA program and bought a business. And this is what it was. It was a catering truck. We called them Roach Coaches back in the day. But Roach Coaches now, catering trucks now are kind of sexy, right? There's like reality shows, and there's like 5-star Michelin chefs that own catering trucks, and there's people that own fleets of these things, and there's nothing really to be ashamed about. It's basically a restaurant on wheels nowadays if you have one, but back then it wasn't so. I was a glorified ice cream man, basically. I would go to a construction site, honk my horn, raise the roof. My cook in the back, Mercedes, who was my first employee ever, would be making carne asada burritos and dropping the fries in the fry oil, and we would just turn out these quick meals, 10 minutes at one construction site, 20 minutes at another. We'd be selling coffee, Marlboro Lights, we sold cigarettes at the time, Diet Cokes, Doritos, carne asada burritos. This was my life. Executive MBA program at night, Roach Coach during the day. So if you're going to ask me 100 times which was a more valuable learning experience as far as business and entrepreneurship, 100 times out of 100 times, if you were going to compare an executive MBA and owning a Roach Coach, 100 times I would say Roach Coach. Because what that taught me how to do was learn business in the real world. How to read a P&L, how to read a balance sheet, how to manage employees, how to get new business. More importantly than anything else, it taught me how to grow a thick skin. to develop a thick skin, which I think a lot of dentists don't really have. They don't have entrepreneurial chops, and they don't have a thick skin. If you get rejected from dental school 21 times, and you have a learning disability, and you start your career off with your face in a fence, and then have to go and work slinging hamburgers and burritos for 3 years, you learn how to develop a thick skin. That was a differentiating factor in my life that got me kind of where I am in the profession to this point. Here's what I have going on. I own Horizon Dental Group, which has been up to 14 practices, currently own 10 in Arizona and California. I am the founder of the Dental Success Institute. That is a consultancy and a mastermind group that is much different than other coaches and consultancies where we actually get together 4 times per year, my group of about 120 dentists, and we work on our practices together. Because I always tell people I'm never, ever, if I'm at a conference or even in a small room with my clients, I am never the smartest person in the room. But what we do have when we get together with 120 doctors is about 400 years of collective dental experience in the room. In this room, I bet we have 400 to 500 years of collective dental experience in a room. Most times, when you get that kind of experience in a room, there is not a single problem that any single doctor has that we can't solve, or that 5 other people in the room haven't tackled and figured out. So that's what we have with the Dental Success Institute. We have live events, we have masterminds. It's pretty cool. We're like a family. I'm the CEO of the Dental Success Network. The Dental Success Network is a brand new company. We launched 2 months ago. We have almost 700 doctors that are part of the Dental Success Network now. What it is it's a safe online community. It's also a preferred vendor buying group type thing. And then we also have 2 live facilities, one in Indianapolis and one in Scottsdale, where if you're a member of the network, you get steeply discounted continuing education, both clinical and business. I own the Horizon Schools of Dental Assisting. That's actually a long story, but when I was building up my practices, I literally did not have access to any good assistants in my small town. So I started my own dental assisting school in the lobby of one of my offices. And we started training people from the community to be my dental assistants. And then after we filled up all of my offices, we started charging people tuition to come through my dental assisting schools. And then people started approaching me saying, I want to do that. I need assistance, and I want, remember Brady was talking about another vertical? I want another way to generate passive income. So I started selling these dental assisting schools. We have about 200 locations now around the country. I have my book, Pillars of Dental Success, another one in the works. I keep on saying it's in the works. I swear it's almost done. Systems-driven dental practice. I'm the host of the Dentalpreneur podcast as well. We're in 150 countries for the Dentalpreneur podcast. We get about 60,000 downloads per month. All right, so here are the locations for my dental assisting schools from Seattle, Washington, and San Diego all the way to Maine and Coral Gables, Florida, all the way across the country there. All right, how many people have seen this movie, Moneyball? Moneyball. Okay, I got you guys to raise your hands. Everybody stand up for a second. I get it. Everybody stand up for a second. Even the guy that's right there with his arms crossed, rolling his eyes at me. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. I'm going to wait. Stand up. Stand up. Okay, you can sit down. All right. So, Moneyball. Moneyball. Wake up, guys. I am the only thing standing between you, me and Elijah are the only 2 people standing in between you and happy hour. We're almost there. Moneyball. Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill. Great movie. So, quick synopsis. 2001, Oakland A's. The manager, Billy Beane, and the Oakland A's lose to the Yankees in the playoffs and lose their 3 biggest stars to free agency. Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, and Jason Isringhausen. They lose those 3. Okay? Beane's even bigger challenge is that his budget for players is 1/3 of the richer teams in the league. So how is he going to rebuild his team without his stars and with such a tiny budget? Okay, so his budget was $40 million. The Yankees was $128 million. How do you compete with that? Especially when your stars just left for more money. That is the theme of the movie. So here's a little graph about where Bean was located as far as how much salary he had to play with. Just under $40 million for the A's in 2002, just over $120 million for the Yankees. Okay, so the way that it works is, if you're a richer organization, typically now you get better players and you have a much better shot at winning a championship. Think about the Yankees back in that era. Okay, so his solution, once again, his challenge, not enough money, just lost all of his good people. How do you compete? His solution, data and statistical analysis. He hires a Yale grad and statistical genius, Peter Brand. That was the Jonah Hill character in the movie. Their hypothesis: standard agreed upon metrics in baseball aren't the only predictors of success. Okay? The basic predictors of success, the generally agreed upon predictors of success in baseball: runs batted in, batting average, and stolen bases. Okay? So if you can steal a base, get on base, and hit people in, right? 3 times out of 10, you're making $10 million a year. It's not a joke, it's for real. Those are the 3 agreed upon statistics. All right? So, what they did was that they recognized that there were more important stats. There were ways to get around those big 3. For them, they figured out that it was on-base average and slugging percentage. Okay, I'm losing some of you guys, but basically the bottom line is they didn't care how you got on base. If you jumped in front of a fastball and you got on base, got hit by a pitch and got on base, you're valuable to the team. If you are really good at getting walked for whatever reason, you're on the team. If you hit a blooper over second base every single time and got on base, even if you couldn't steal, you were valuable to the team. So this was groundbreaking. This was a groundbreaking recognition, pattern recognition that they realized. So their plan then was they hired a bunch of over-the-hillers and unknowns that were unwanted and hugely undervalued. A bunch of cheap guys that could get the job done, that were past their prime, that got on base somehow, and when they're up to bat, they would hit triples every once in a while. They didn't have to be fast. They didn't have to have great arms. They didn't have to be awesome in the field. They just needed to be able to get on base, statistically speaking. Okay? The result, the team won the American League Championship 20 consecutive games and made it to the playoffs in 2002 and 2003 with a tiny little budget and no stars on the entire team. Huge, awesome results. So what can we learn from this? Most dentists measure their practice's success by tracking a limited number of metrics. What are they for us? You guys are walking around the ADA in Honolulu. What are the big 3 that everybody's talking about? They're puffing their chest out. I produce this much, I collect this much, and I get this many new patients. Those are the big 3. Right? That's like stolen bases, RBIs, and, right? Those are our big 3. Okay? Expanding the statistics that are tracked and measured increases clarity in the decision-making process and facilitates growth and management opportunities from a dentist owner's perspective. So how do we play dental practice moneyball? Dental moneyball then. Additional metrics to track in addition to production, collections, and new patients. There's a lot of them. And we've talked about a lot of them today. But what are some? Case acceptance percentage. If you're not tracking that, you probably should start tracking how effective are the cases that you're presenting. Laura talked about that just now. How effective are you? How receptive is your patient base to your case acceptance or to your treatment planning? Production per hour, missed appointment percentage, attrition rate. Laura talked a lot about attrition rate as well. An attrition patient is somebody that falls out of your practice at 18 months in 1 day. Okay? So many people are looking at new patients and saying, I'm good. I got 65 new patients this month, right? I got two dental providers. I got 65 new patients. They say that with 25 new patients per provider, I'm good. I'm fine. Practice is good. We're growing. Are you really? The only way really to know is to pull an attrition report. And I will tell you, you guys will be shocked. If you have some advanced analytic software, Dental Intel's here, Divergent's great as well. If you pull an attrition report, I've done this in all 10 of my dental practices, it is shocking. Some of my best practices get 100 new patients but lose 120. They get 60 but lose 80. Very, very common. The back door is wide open, and most people don't know that their business is actually contracting and getting smaller as the years go by. Very, very common. This is a statistic that you have to figure out how to track. Reappointment rate should be in the low to mid 90s. It doesn't have to be to 100%, because if you get to 100% with your reappointment rate, you'll probably have a higher percentage of no-shows or late cancellations. But that should be in the low 90s. Active patient hygiene percentage. So I'm hoping that most people out there can just say, just like they can say, I produce this much, I collect this much, this is how many new patients I get. Hopefully, just that many people can say, I have 1,800 active patients. I have 2,500 active patients. Can you say, of that 2,500 active patient base, how many are actually active in hygiene? Something to think about. That should be greater than 85%. Now, I get the privilege of being able to look behind the scenes of thousands, literally thousands of dental practices. And I will tell you, patterns arise. Most people don't know attrition rate. Most people don't know reappointment rate. Most people don't know case acceptance rate. Most people don't know production per hour. Most people don't know the number of active patients that are actually active in hygiene. But the ones that do typically have overhead under control and have vibrant, growing practices because they're paying attention to these types of statistics. All right, I'm going to get more specific about how you guys can do that. Cost per procedure, incomplete treatment plan total. Cost per procedure, oh man, this one is near and dear to my heart. I'm going to talk a lot about cost per procedure. How many people out there know exactly how much it costs to produce a crown in your office? Cost of goods sold. Like, this is how much it costs for my assistant's time. This is how much it costs for the heating and cooling and utilities for an hour that it took to prep that crown. This is how much it costs for shipping. This is how much it costs for sterilization. How many know that? Okay, let's talk more about that. This is one of my cost per procedure sheets. And I will tell you, one of my buddies owns a McDonald's. And they have one of these cost per hamburger sheet for everything that they produce. They know exactly how much a sesame seed costs. They know exactly how much a slice of cheese costs. They know exactly how much one squirt of their secret sauce costs. So they know exactly how much the cost of goods sold is. They know how much it costs for somebody to put it together, and they know how much it costs to wrap it and put it under the heat lamp and hand it to a customer. I would love it if you guys could get to that level of sophistication in your office. This is mine for crown prep. I know that that I use one dry angle for every single crown prep that I do, and it costs $6.81 for 500 dry angles. Hence, it costs me 1 cent for a dry angle. Come on, Mark. Like, we counting pennies now? Well, yeah. If you're going to be a sophisticated business owner, that is the level of sophistication that you want to have. I know that my temporary material costs $42.50, but the amount that I use for a molar costs me $1.06. I know that the Ziploc bag that I put the temporary, that I put the impression material in costs a half a cent. I know that the gloves cost me 6 cents for one pair. If you add it all up and you add in the utilities for the hour that it takes me to prep that crown, the hourly treatment room overhead is $24.54, and the supply cost is $24.34. My lab fee is $39 because we get volume discounts through the Dental Success Network. My total cost, somewhere around $97. That includes shipping. So it costs me, for my assistant's time, my material, and all the utilities, $97, including the lab fee. Okay, that's neither here nor there. Good for me, right? And I know that it costs $16 to seat it for my assistant's time, the cement, and to break down the room, sterilize everything. Like I said, neither here nor there. However, what that gives me is such an advantage over making smart business decisions, right? So now I know that if there is a particular PPO that I'm considering taking, what if I'm a Medicaid office and they're only paying $600 per crown? How many times have you guys been to a conference where people are just like, no, just say no to PPOs? I agree, I don't love PPOs, but how can you make an informed decision about what your floor is, what you're willing to accept, and how much profitability you need to make per hour in your office if you don't know your cost of goods sold? You guys are the top 3% of all educated people in the world when you have your doctorate degree in dentistry. This is stuff that we can figure out. Is it tedious? Hell yeah. Do you have to do it all? No. You can delegate many of these procedures out to your awesome team. I recommend you guys figure out how much it costs to produce every single procedure in dentistry. It costs me to do a root canal $54.97 per canal. It costs me $181.25, including lab fee and shipping, to do a removable prosthetic. I can't read the composite filling because it got cut off. To break down a room, it cost me $2.98. To deliver a crown, it cost me $16.13. To extract a tooth, it cost me $20.73. To do a non-hygiene exam, it cost me $24.90. Okay? So when we work with a client, a potential client or a client, we break down their progress in terms of phases. So does anybody know what the typical or the average overhead is for a general dental practice in the United States right now, according to the 2015 ADA survey? 68 to 72%. 68 to 72% is the average overhead. I'm going to show you exactly how we calculate overhead. So in phase one, we have 3 phases. In phase one, when we're working with anybody, and you guys can do this by yourselves at home, phase one focus is business awareness, systemization, and overhead control. Okay, we're going to work on expenses and overhead targets. So we have this 30-30-30-10 formula for phase one. 30%, the first 30, is what? What's the biggest? Peter and Craig talked about it. What's the biggest expense in dental office? Payroll, yep. First 30 is payroll. Now, I know that there's people in this room, whether they're consultants or they're doctors, that I've heard people say, that's wrong. It's got to be between 20 and 25% for total staff. I disagree. I disagree. We allot 30% for total payroll because my belief is I want to be able to attract and retain the very best dental team. So we push the envelope. I'll say 30% all day long. Sometimes, in rare cases, we'll let that get up to 33%. How can I say that? How do you remain profitable, Mark? Well, I just showed you how you remain profitable, because the second 30% is fixed and variable expenses. If you could squeeze your variable expenses down, and you know your cost of goods sold, and you know your cost per procedure, you can squeeze everything else down as much as you need to accommodate for the highest paid staff. Okay? It's more important to me to be able to pay my girls, my team, not just my girls, my team, a premium than to have really fancy 2x2s. Or use 9 inches of floss instead of 6. The more sophisticated you get as a business owner, the more you can pay your staff, the less turnover you will have, the better culture you will have. Life is good. Human capital. Human capital is the most important expense in dentistry. So 30%, the first 30% is staff. Second 30%, fixed and variable expense. The third 30%, providing doctor salaries. 10% is what? Profit. Profit, that big P word, the other P word that nobody talks about. Everybody knows how much they produce. You ask 10 doctors what they profit, maybe 3 will be able to tell you. Okay, so payroll, expenses fixed and variable, doctor pay, and profit. Phase 2 overview. Focus is now increased revenue and patient flow. So let's go back to phase 1. We see a lot of doctors who 68, 72%, sometimes higher with the overhead. Mark, the reason I called you is because we're growing every year, we're producing more every single year, there's never any money in the bank account. Where's it all going? Where the heck is my money? What I think I need to do is take this implant course. Buy a CBCT for $100,000. Buy the 3D printer for $6,000. Take the $25,000 implant course, and with $175,000, oh, the milling machine too. For $275,000, I'll be able to generate all this extra income. The reasoning is sound. Your production will potentially go up, but do you want to pour more water into a leaky bucket? Would it make more sense first to figure out where the holes are in the bucket, plug them, so that when you get all that new production, you can keep some of it? Let's fix the business systems first. Let's get you to be a more sophisticated business owner first before we ramp up production. That's what phase 1 is all about. Phase 2, focus is increased revenue and patient flow. Further emphasis on increasing hygiene production and hygiene production percentage. Hygiene's a big part of this. Team incentives, increased data analysis. Internal and external marketing and ROI, expenses and overhead targets. I'm going faster because I'm running out of time. This one, it says 25. Wait a second, Mark, you just said staff should always be at 30%. Now we're at 25, 30, 30, and 15. The reason that went down to 25% is why? Because in phase 2, we're ramping up production, right? Phase 1, we're not worrying about production. We're worrying about fixing the business. Phase 2, we're ramping up production. So the same 30% now becomes a lower percentage of a higher revenue. Okay? You guys are getting efficient now. 25, 30, 30. That fourth number is what starts to look sexy. 15%. That means that if you have 10 practices like me, or 5 or 4 like Dr. Bolden, or whatever your model happens to be, if you're a 1 mega practice like Craig, 15% is a sexy number. Because if I have $10 million practices, and I decide that I want to put down the drill like Laura says, that means what? 15% profitability on $10 million practices. That is $150,000 per year per practice. And I'm not doing dentistry anymore. How about you have one $2 million practice and you're 15% profitable, and it's all associate driven. You decide that, I've had 2 back surgeries. I played football in college. I've had 2 back surgeries. 2 times in my career, I had to put down the drill for a couple months. Scary, scary times when this is your moneymaker. What if you don't want to be so reliant on your own 2 hands? $2 million practice, 15% profitability, what does that mean? That means $300,000 passive income to you, doc. Multiply by that by 3, by 4, by 5 if you want to do the multiple practice model. You can see how quickly, if you know how to run a business, this could be very sexy. All right, phase 3 is when things get really cool. Focuses on further revenue increase and overhead decrease. We want to increase our clinical suite. Now it's time, because we can afford to pay mostly cash for the implant training and the CBCT and the milling unit and everything you need. We're going to increase our clinical suite now. We're going to increase our capacity. Maybe we want to buy another practice now that our overhead is below 55%. Incidentally, I don't give my blessing because a lot of people join our group because they want to get into multiple practice ownership, which I totally encourage. But we don't typically give our blessing to go to the next practice until the flagship practice, the first practice, is below 55% overhead and completely systemized. So, increased capacity could mean adding a couple operatories. It could mean picking up a practice or two, but your flagship has to be tight. Increased providers, specialty services potentially. Expenses and overhead targets look like this. 25% to the staff, 25% for fixed and variable overhead, 30% still goes to the doctor, and then you got 20% profit. That is looking really sexy. Now your $2 million practice is generating $400,000 for you, doctor, without you having to pick up a handpiece. I see it every day. I see it in my group every day. As they go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, from 60% overhead, from 70% overhead to 60 to 55 to 50. It is not a pipe dream. It is not impossible. I see people do it every day. You just have to figure out how to be more sophisticated and track. All right. So, a tale of two practices. I have 10 minutes and 3, 2, 1 seconds. Here we go. Practice number 1. One of these things. It's impossible to read, I know. I want to show you guys the difference between a practice whose overhead is high and the focus has been just on production for years and years and years. Okay? These are two real cases of my own clients. Okay. This particular doctor has a revenue, monthly revenue of $194,000. Total expenses, $168,000 per month. Total overhead, 86%. True story. The desired overhead is 60%, so they're 26% over in variance for what we want their overhead to be. Their negative profit is negative $15,834 per month. This doctor is either writing a check for $15,000 a month or underpaying himself by $15,000 every month. So, this is what we call our scorecard. This is what our clients get every single month. This is not intended to be a commercial, but this is how we read our expenses every month. This is how I read my expenses for my 10 practices every month. On the left-hand column that you can't read, it's basically the expenses in the practice. The second column, all black, is how much we're actually paying in dollars. The third column is, also in black, is the percentage of revenue. The fourth column, in blue, is the industry standard. And then the fifth column is the variance. You guys, I know that you can't read it, but can you see some red in the right column? Okay, red means he's overspending in any particular area by that number. Okay, so just at a glance, if you're standing in the very back, you can tell that there's red. Okay, his dental supplies, he's overspending by 8.58%. His lab fees, he's overspending by 1.64%. Advertising, a little high, 0.67%. For some reason, he's way overpaying on insurance, 5.36%. Whatever it is, if he's overspending, it shows up in red. All of those expenditures equal 86% overhead. Okay? Very, very inefficient. Very, very inefficient business. But it's a $2.4 million practice, right? Sexy. Awesome. Good stuff. 2.4 mil? You buy that on the open market and you're not a sophisticated buyer, you could end up with a big problem on your hands. So here's his breakdown of his 30-30-30-10. He's actually paying 31.6% for his payroll. That's totally cool. That's no big deal. But his expenses that should be at 30% are 54.4%. That's a bloated company. He's overpaying himself by 32.9%. That's cool. I want that number to be high. But his profit is negative 18.9%. Negative 18.9%. Okay, If you look at his available funds, so we also take, that was the P&L portion, okay? That was a dentist-friendly P&L. If you superimpose the balance sheet over the top of that, the balance sheet talks about long-term debt, right? Student loans, mortgage on the building, practice acquisition loan, all that stuff. If you add that all up, his debt service per month is $18,730. So his available funds, if you add the balance sheet payments to that, he's actually negative $34,564 per month. So he literally is 6 months from bankruptcy. $2.4 million practice, he could have to file Chapter 11 in 6 months if we don't figure out what is going on immediately. Negative $34,000 per month. This particular doctor wasn't writing a check for it every month because he had zero money in his bank account. What he was doing is not paying himself. He was paying all the associates. He hadn't paid himself for 18 months. Nothing. That is what negative $34,000 per month looks like. Should never happen with a $2.4 million practice. Okay, tale of two practices. Practice number 2. This practice is almost half the size. This practice is only collecting about $114,000 per month, but the total expenses are $55,900. That means that her overhead, 49% versus 86%. Practice half the size, overhead much, much, much more under control. Okay? Very little red in the variance column, as you guys can see. So you have a practice that's half the size, but the overhead is in check. Let's look at her numbers, how they break down. Her total payroll, 22.5%. Her total expenses, and by the way, she is located in an area that is very, very affluent. They just produce a lot for the amount of staff that they have. They're very, very efficient. Total fixed and variable expenses, 26.5%, which 30% is allotted according to our formula. Now, it says 25.7% as doctor compensation. The reason that's not 30% is because she pays herself a fixed salary and she takes the rest in profit or reinvests it into the company. But she still gets that money out. So you can see that her profit is 25.3%. If she wanted to pay herself an extra 4% at 30%, then she would be profiting 21.3% instead of 25.3%. Okay? All right. If you superimpose her balance sheet on top of her P&L, her debt service is $6,400 per month. Her available funds, $29,074. $29,274. Practice 1, negative $34,000. $2.4 million practice. Practice 2, positive $29,274. I'll tell you guys a little secret about her. She has medical issues. She can't sit down in a chair. She's my age. And about 6 years ago, the doctor in her decided that she could no longer sit down for 8 hours and do dentistry. So she hired a full-time associate, and she does Invisalign. And she runs the practice. She never sits down at a chair anymore. She works about 6 hours per week. She makes, as a business owner, $29,274 per month. And she doesn't pick up a handpiece. And she works 6 hours a week. And this is a real-life person. The other doctor is working 50 hours a week and hasn't paid himself in 18 months. Now, these are two extreme situations. But most people that I talk to fall somewhere between practice 1 and practice 2. She is pretty amazing. And she continues to refine and expand. Incidentally, she just bought her 3rd practice. And when she started with us, she had 1 practice, and I said, yes, you're at 50% overhead, go do another and duplicate flagship. And she's in the process of doing that. Okay, so here's the comparison. Practice 1 was collecting $194,000. Practice 2 was collecting $114,000. Expenses for practice 1, $168,000. Expenses for practice 2, $55,000. Overhead for practice 1, 86%. Overhead for practice 2, 49%. The net profit for practice 1, negative $15,834. The net profit for practice 2, positive $35,674. Available funds, negative $34,000 for practice 1, positive $29,000 for practice 2. Practice 1 out-collected practice 2 by $80,879, which is $1 million. Practice 1 was $1 million bigger than practice 2. Practice 1 overhead was 86% versus practice 2 overhead, which was 49%, which is a 37% difference in overhead percentage. Overhead percentage should be one of the most important metrics that you track. Available funds for practice 1, negative 34. Available funds for practice 2, plus 29,279. In comparison to practice 1, practice 2 has a $63,843 cash flow swing per month, which is a $766,116 annual differential in revenue. That is with a practice that's $1 million smaller. That's how much more money she makes than the first guy, because he's in the negative. All right, so I have 19 seconds. So I'm going to buzz through this slide, and then we'll take questions if you guys have any. So lowering overhead, increasing available funds. To decrease variable expenses, we want to have an overall increased awareness in how to read a profit and loss statement. You want to be able to calculate cost per procedure. You want to be able to control your inventory. You want to be able to negotiate and shop for supply savings. You want to be able to negotiate with labs and vendors. If you guys are one-off or two-off dental practices and you feel like you're trying to fight the good fight by yourselves, and you're watching these DSOs get all these sweet deals with the insurance companies, the suppliers, your lease, right? The labs, join some sort of a group. You could choose my group, DSN. You could choose any number of buying groups out there, but do something to connect yourself with a bigger group so your voice can be heard and you can get negotiated prices. And you have just a chance to compete with these larger groups. I know that was lightning fast, but I hope you guys got some value from that. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much. Oh, Laura Hatch.
I'm Elijah.
Oh.
I have my bow tie.
You're so much better looking.
Oh, thank
Please
you.
meet the new and improved blonde Elijah.
I got my bow tie. I'm ready.
Bow tie is ready to go. A bunch of people were asking in the comments, by the way, for anybody here in the room or anyone watching on Facebook, if you love these presentations and maybe you missed one or maybe you couldn't catch all of them, the Profitable Dentist has been very generous in giving an opportunity for people to purchase the course before the end of this weekend. You can purchase all the courses and all the speakers for $97 for all of these speakers. So Steve Parker and the Profitable Dentist, Dr. Woody Oakes, thank you for being so generous to this audience. I think that's a fantastic offer. You can get it at, if you want to write this down, you can go there. It's www.tpdlive for the Profitable Dentist Live, tpdlive.com/buy, tpdlive.com/buy, and you're able to purchase the entire set and get lifetime access to all the speakers. So let's switch over to some questions and some answers from Dr. Mark Costas, who, Mark, there's a new hashtag blowing up that says hashtag Costas Rocks. So now we have
Costas rocks, front office rocks, dentistry rocks.
Oh, sorry. Do you have that trademarked?
Yeah, no. You can have Costas rocks.
Cease and desist on my desk?
Exactly. No, you've got it. No, there's a lot of great stuff. Somebody here put one of the smartest business owners that I know. Somebody else says, dork out on Mark's podcast for Metric Monday. Do you talk about numbers a lot?
Every Monday on my podcast, totally free. We have Metrics Mondays, 15 minutes of a deep dive into any one of those categories that you guys can possibly think of.
I think
the Dentalpreneur podcast.
And somebody wrote, I guess it's really important to know your numbers. I think you just proved that, right?
So guys, if you have questions on Facebook, drop your name, your town, and your question there online. How about in the room? Any questions here from, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
The negative number on practice 1, that was based on what he should have been paying.
The negative number was based on the industry standard of 30%. Right. Yep.
So Ciara.
So if he happened to be an associate somewhere else, and he was generating the same amount that he was generating at this practice, he would have made $15,000 more, or whatever the differential was.
Better off being an associate.
Good question.
Yes, much better off.
Ciara from Sacramento, California says, I was wondering how long you've been using the 30-30-30-10 formula for all your practices. By the way, you're awesome.
No, thank you. We've been using that, it's a whole different story for a whole other time, but I built 6 practices out of the gate pretty quick. My first 7 years in dental practice, I built 6 practices, and that is when I made the majority of my mistakes. And I learned by trial and error, and it was after that period of time, I built 6, sold 4, did pretty well with them, and then I really took the 2 that were remaining and I really refined the systems, and I refined all the metrics, and we started to figure this stuff out. And then after I got down to 2, then we blew up again and did another expansion. And it was at that time when we were able to implement all of our systems for the practice and use all these metrics. And they have evolved and gotten more fine-tuned. In the beginning, it was 60% overhead, and that was our target, and that's where it stopped. But then we evolved, and like my group got so much better. Everybody was getting to 60%. Then we said, let's do phase 2. Then everybody was getting to 55. And then we said, let's do phase 3. And then everybody was getting to 50. We have a contingent in our group. It's probably getting close to a dozen people in our group that are below 50%, like in the mid 40s to 50%. And that's just crazy. That's like 25% profitability. That's awesome for dental practice.
And Mark, one of the things I've always liked about you, and the more and more I hear you talk and learn about what you do, you don't have theories, you have scars. And there's scars that have made you stronger, and I think it's fantastic. Dr. Bill, you have a question?
Dr. Mark, you are the master of the herd. You are training dentistry to make cash cows. You showed us how we can turn efficiency into really an equity harvest. I mean, you have dug the numbers out, you studied them, you put them on the board for us. If we can make cash cows out of numbers, then that's like free money. Because it's always there, but nobody knows where those numbers were until it was able to be dug out. And so that's a service. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill. I really appreciate that. That's a great analogy. I might have to use that. I say all the time that the stuff that we learned, like organic chemistry and biochemistry and ProSlab, all this crazy stuff that we did in dental school is so far beyond the intelligence level that we had to have to get through that stuff is so far beyond this stuff, but nobody ever taught us this stuff. So we can't take for granted that we'll just be smart enough to figure it out. We still need a little bit of guidance. So if you don't know it, don't be scared to say, I don't know how to read a P&L, or I don't know how to apply that to my business. There's no shame in that. We were never taught this stuff. Yes?
Just to clarify, one of the line items was facility and equipment costs. That was included in the overhead. However, in the practice 2, I think you minused out after the overhead percentage a debt service. So can you just clarify that?
Sure. So the long-term debt payment on a particular, say, CBCT machine would go in the balance sheet, right? Any maintenance for that CBCT goes on the profit and loss statement. That's a really, really good question. And the mortgage for the building that you happen to own, that still shows up on the P&L because that's the same as a lease payment. That's a really, really good question. Thank you for...
That's a numbers person asking a numbers person.
That was a great catch. Yeah.
Well, good. I think I saw one other hand up, and then we'll wrap up before our final speaker.
Yes. So what are the most, thank you for the question. What are the most common areas of overspending on variable expenses? Is that, okay, thank you. Okay, so the lowest hanging fruit that we usually come up with is dental supplies, lab fees, and office supplies, believe it or not. So in this guy's case, he was 8.58% over on dental supplies. And when you have a $200,000 per month revenue and you're 8.5% over on just one line item, that's $18,000 right there that he could have saved himself if he got down to 5% instead of 12.5% for his dental supplies. Lab is another low-hanging fruit. Office supplies, we often see people that are overpaying on paper and toner and pens, for goodness sake, 2% over, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's not super sexy, but again, if 2% of $200,000 is a significant amount of money. So the variable expenses, the lowest hanging fruit that we have found typically is lab fees and dental supplies and office supplies.
Excellent. So great. Thank you. So wonderful. Round of applause for Dr. Mark Costas.
Thank you.
And now, what I'd like to say is we are going to have our final speaker here in just a couple of minutes. Remember, if you're interested in capturing that opportunity to get lifetime access to the entire speaker collection, you can go to www.tpdlive for the Profitable Dentist Live.com/buy, B-U-Y. Thank you,
Yeah.
Laura.
Not like bye.
Not like goodbye. Thank you. So the Elijah Desmond, who does not have blonde hair, will be our final speaker for today. What I'd like you to do is, if you're here in the room or if you're here online, I'd like you to know that this is a presentation you're not going to want to miss. You will probably laugh. You might cry. You will probably want to jump up and down and be excited with all of us. It's going to be awesome. However, because of Facebook, our videographer, Brandon, is going to be cutting this feed to start one final feed. What does that mean? That means this video is going to end in just a couple minutes. While it ends, you can go check out the video copy if you'd like, or you can look back on the Facebook page and review some of the notes. During the next 5 minutes, you need to come back onto the Facebook page, because in about 5 minutes, we're going to start the final video for today. So, thank you for being here. We will see you in about 5 minutes. And I'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
By maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, I was just done reading it. I just read it cover to cover, and I was like, this guy gets it.
I read that book, and one night he sent it to me right away.
I don't remember if I came across his podcast or his blog, but somehow I came across his book.
I knew I had to get that book.
The difference with Jamie is when I first talked to him, he cared about me and about what my goals were, my dreams were.
He was an amazing person. I could just tell on the phone that he was genuine, that he cared about people, that he was a down-to-earth guy. He's so happy and optimistic.
You know, Jamie has this process down, and he has the best team members that perfectly fit into each one of those roles.
They really set the path for you. They kind of guide you towards the right path. If you go off on the wrong direction, they bring you back to where you're supposed to go.
Your time is worth money. It is well worth spent to have somebody help you.
They tailor everything to what you do and what your vision is.
And once I started working with Steven and Jamie, it was night and day.
It's night and day difference for the quality of life that you can build for yourself.
Ideal Practice Solutions basically takes all those things that you don't know how to do, and they fix everything.
I was put in the right direction in how to run a business.
I don't even know of any other company that does what Jamie does.
Jamie went and got me financing. I had it in like 5 days.
The banks are talking to us. They're coming out to see us. They're giving us money so we can build this awesome practice.
Before I was going to have a small office. Now, you know, this is, I have 6 rooms ready. You know, in dental school, we've never been taught that.
And now 2 years later, we're in this beautiful historic building, and it's everything I ever could have wanted.
Where employees can work and they are happy and they feel fulfilled.
My patients are now just finding me, and they're proud to say hi to me.
Ideal Practices has allowed me to realize my dream of being a small business owner and a private practice owner.
I'm working for myself now and setting my own schedule and doing what I want to do, and I couldn't be happier.
I am stronger, I'm more confident.
Start something that's yours.
I'm going to get to be my own boss. I can do things differently, train staff differently. I can change the patient experience a little bit and do things more my way.
To open my practice and open my doors, I could not have been more excited.
That's what they're there for.
Anybody can do this with a little help.
Doing it just on your own with no help is impossible to me.
There have been so many times where I thought I could not have done this on my own.
I'm just so grateful for that they're, you know, able to make it as easy as possible for me.
I couldn't be more grateful for all the new patients that are coming. In 2 months, we have like over 100 new patients.
This coming Monday is completely full, so. Since we opened, we will have seen 346 new patients.
There has not been a day that I haven't been almost completely booked.
Monday, the phone started ringing. Tuesday, it kept ringing. I don't have time to go quit my job because the phone won't stop ringing.
If I ever build another practice, I'm going to use them again.
Dentists, do you want to attract more high-value patients? Patients who are actively looking for dental implant treatment ranging from $5,000 to $50,000? Driven Dental Implant Marketing specializes in driving high-value cases to your practice. Dental implant marketing is the only thing that we do. We'll develop a proven campaign custom to your location that positions you as the dental implant provider of choice. You'll stand out in your market, even if it's highly competitive. We guarantee your office will receive a minimum of 20 leads per month. And we coach and support your team to convert those leads to patients who say yes to treatment. If you're looking to increase the flow of high-value patients to your office and maximize your ROI, go to the website www.drivendentalmarketing.com and schedule an exploratory 15-minute strategy session today.
Hey folks, Brady Frank here. I want to get you a free book. Whether you watched me live in Orlando or live on Facebook, the book is going to go over the things that I've done over time that will allow you to do it the easy way, not the hard way like I had to do it. Number one, how to add co-owners as opposed to associates to your practice. Number two, how to build your DDSO. That's your dentist-owned DSO, and with a bunch of tax advantages there. Number three, how to invest in investment practices. We call them entrepreneurial satellite practices, but also how to use funnels, both for new patient flow and to automate your DDSO. The main ones, dental savings plan, your own lab, your own real estate portfolio, your own private equity company. We're going to be going over all that, so get your free book by just texting free book to 31996.